much, Rain Day, and happy to be bringing us the matches here. Bravo alongside Jamerson for game number 2. Excited to jump in right now to this next match, which is going to be really exciting. I think Jamerson, as Hudson teed up, and as we saw in game number 2, the story of Europe is kind of that everything's up for grabs here.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we saw in the last online tournament the split between the top 4 teams. It was only a differential of I believe, about 6 points. 58 going over to Gambit, and I believe it was Third Impact who ended up 4th with 52 points. And so it's a lot up for grabs right now. And without a huge blowout game, I don't see any team taking an early lead right now like we saw in Online 2 with the Lions consistently winning games and having a huge point differential. And so anything is up for grabs right now. One thing I do want to mention is that Nasty, Strafe, and Dell, we saw them early on in game number 1 where they were able to take up a center position over at No Name or the town east of Fragment East. And they only walked away with 6 kills even though they were in one of the best positions to catch people rotating.
Jag tror vi skulle gått runt Trainard hela vägen då faktiskt.
Coming from
vi skulle gått runt
east to
Trainard
west
till
across that top central
Capital.
part of the map here. Slowly making their way, taking a look at a few teams that might have early advantages as we take a look at just some of the drops. Right now in scrims we're seeing Myth landing at Tree, Weigers at Geyser, Outsiders also at Overlook, some of the drops that we've been seeing so far. We'll have to see if that remains to be the case, because as we heard in the pregame and also in game number 1, when you do have these online tournaments with less established teams in these lobbies, it really does put these drops kind of all over the place, teams dropping on each other, sometimes inadvertently and sharing spaces that they maybe didn't want to do so.
And they're already fighting here as Badoli is going to get knocked by Yuzako here from Red Reserve. This is not how you want to start out the first fight. Luckily for him, he was on the high ground here, so there is some time for them to try and get him up, but I don't know, maybe he was split from the rest of the team. No, we got G-Dolphin in, I believe this is a new team, trying to hold down the position, but they're already getting pushed down.
Absolutely looking at Red Reserve here, see exactly what they might have. They can as well. And now going back over to this side here of Refinery, and some, once again, like we said, that's going to actually be, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's going to be G-Dolphin and Crew who are actually getting beat up there off of Refinery.
Yeah, you do not want to be the first team out here. I'm not entirely too sure exactly how they did in game number 1.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and take a look. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, they were outside of the top 10, so that's going to be a tough result for them. They're going to have a very tough games number 3 through 5. But as we're starting to see some beacons on screen here, Jamerson, as things are pulling north central here, you're already seeing pings from teams, as you'd expect, on the outskirts station. Teams are going to be looking to hold pieces of epicenter. Fragment's going to be popular in terms of teams might only be able to get as far as one of the fragment buildings and having to hold up. But you do have a lot of teams that are still very far west here, right? We see teams still at Mirage, Train, Fisher, Drill, and then 2 teams in Skyhook. All those teams are going to be making west to east pushes across what are going to be pretty small chokes from that western and northwest sides.
Yeah, but we were just on board with Nasky, Strafe, and Bell. They're already setting up for a center position here, and one of those teams we were talking about on the edges here. This is actually all the way on the eastern edge. We got Dead Inside, who will be able to pick up this beacon, and so I want to see exactly how they play towards this. One thing they can do, I think, because of how teams will probably try and focus getting into a Fragment West building, they can hold in Fragment East for this next circle and secure one more beacon before the next round is over. And so I want to see exactly what their rotation path is if they want to try and consider holding on to that Broken Diner building to try and get that Pathfinder beacon.
Yep, Dead Inside getting that beacon there as well. Let's take a look with them. Looking right now only on a single gold armor and then double whites at this time. So they're going to be looking to level up, of course, but now also looking at GSD. If you're just joining us, first of all, welcome to the Apex Legends Global Series Online Tournament number 4. GSD able to win the first game in Europe. But as we talked about, Jamerson, now as we see things slowly making their way toward the center, maybe a good opportunity to talk about it. Pretty interesting results in terms of numbers after that first game within the top 5, and it really only furthers the story of this passive European narrative.
Yeah, it's really weird to see, you know, a top first position team actually end up walking away with only 6 kills there, and they secured all of those basically in that last team fight, in that last scramble amongst the top 5 teams. you expect them to get more. They were a Fragment East team that ended up rotating on over super early on and just basically didn't leave their building until they finally had to in Ring 6 or Ring 7. But this time around, I want to see if they can find something. I see that they've already preemptively set up some zip lines to take control of the rock above them, and holding kind of that train station area can be really strong as long as you maintain a good perimeter. Now remember, one of the strengths of Watson is that she controls and zones a large area because of the distances that you can set up the fragments.
Something good this way.
Absolutely. Now we just saw B100 here on your screen as they have already got set up, like we said, in survey camp. We'll talk about this location in a moment, but B100, one of your teams that is currently seated in the bottom 10, so they're looking for a big game number 2. But survey camp, as we saw in the last online tournament, specifically during a circle like this, these buildings become very valuable, but as teams have to move out of survey camp, which right now it'd be a safe bet that they will eventually have to move out there. It'd be a very far eastern pull if things ended on survey camp. Certainly still possible, but we'll have to see. But teams, it's a lot like getting, it's kind of a exaggerated version of getting a fragment building. It's very hard. Once you're in, you hope you're in for the long haul, because the first team that has to move out is going to get lit up by the other teams that are holding those neighboring trailers.
It's going to be a precarious situation at the very least to try and hold over there at survey camp right now. Looking at the minimap, from what I saw, there were about 6 teams holding on the northern side of the map, which is kind of like a meta rotations that a lot of teams are taking, where they're trying to, avoid a lot of teams, and in doing so, with so many teams having the exact same game plan, they actually end up running into a lot more teams or congregating in an area right now. And so that survey camp can become very populated really quickly at the moment here. But we're still waiting, of course. This is the early game right now. We only lost 4 people. We saw a squad go down early on. That was G Dolphins team over at Refinery, and I believe, unfortunately, one of the Na'Vi members had crashed, and we saw them holding up in a building over here in Fragment West, I believe is the zipline building.
Yeah, going to be tough for them. Also, Na'Vi was a team that placed 3rd in that last game with 2 kills, and they kind of also are another example of a team that was in our final top 3 with a very low kill count there, which is not essentially what you expect to see. Just to give you a recap in case you didn't catch game number 1, Nash Strafe Dell able to win with just 6 kills. However, 2nd and 3rd were even more interesting. Outsiders places 2nd with 3 kills, and Na'Vi places 3rd with 2 kills total. So in the end, that'll put Na'Vi actually at 5th and Outsiders at 3rd. Myth will bump up with their 6th kill, 4th place win, excuse me. So definitely an interesting set of results. You heard about it during the pregame as well as game number 1. A lot of question marks around the European storylines. If someone asked, what is the story in Europe? You kind of have to ask, how much time do you have? Because there's a lot of threads. However, no concrete winner just yet. We came into ALGS play ready for LG to dominate the same way that they have. However, online play certainly is a different beast, and right now Europe is kind of up for grabs in terms of which team or teams want to really establish themselves as the number 1, as the 1-2. All of that still up for grabs in terms of ALGS play with online tournament number 4.
At the very least, there seems to be a winner's curse going on, right? In Online Tournament 2, Alliance won, and then they weren't able to qualify for finals in Online Tournament 3. Online Tournament 3, Gambit wins, and they were knocked out, I believe, in the quarterfinals of Online Tournament 4. And so while it's a nice victory to have, it's not long-lived, as apparently come the next tournament, you're just not able to make it out of groups. Now, back on board with Alliance here. This is a much better look for them at this point, where they are on the northwest side of the map. And so being by here by Skyhook, they shouldn't have too many people watching their backs. But you do have IPN, of course, on that Caustic, playing the tower here, making sure that they aren't getting flanked. And they needed, basically secure their backside, which wasn't what they were able to do in game number 2. You saw in their rotation when they were coming in from Fragment West, just south of that area there, that they ended up running into about 2 or 3 teams coming up behind them, rotating also. Now, as that Caustic, you don't want to be caught out in the open, and that's exactly what happened to them. Now, though, they are on the offensive, chasing after this team.
Yeah, let's see if they can make this. Some early damage coming in for Hack. He's going to need to be careful, but my oh my is he ever exchanging with both wing shots and thermals, able to do a whole bunch of damage. He's going to return to bat, and now Vapes as well as IPN are going to have angles for him. Alliance, of course, now with an ALGS win tournament under their belt. You heard Hawks talking about what that meant to him and the team. Also very interesting dynamic that Hodsik pointed out. IPN coming onto this team, also now kind of moving into a Caustic role, which weeks ago was the last thing I think we would have expected a player to have to do, especially coming coming in after a tournament victory the way they have. But right now set up pretty well. Huck is able to do a whole bunch of damage, does not convert into any KP. However, he's able to easily retreat. You do like to see kind of that aggression, though, out of your Wraith.
Yeah, for Alliance, though, they're solely trying to make it to the late game, right? That's where you want that Caustic to thrive when we're in Zone 6 and Zone 7, where his barrels and his ultimate does so much right now. That's why Hawkins, though, is just positioning to try and keep people away. They're not trying to aggress so much until they have a win condition, until they get a knock or something that they can really try and push the advantage of. Back on board with Dead Inside, though. It looks like we do have a fight here. As Red Reserve versus Dead Inside for one of these positions over at Refinery.
Absolutely, and you know, this tells you just how valuable this area is. Of course, this part of all of Refinery, rather, no longer in. However, holding this bottom part of Refinery has really become a common hold, especially for teams that are just looking to play positionally, which really speaks to that EU play style as well. Now, as we take a look, Sadiyama still on just tier 1 of this Evo, looking to try to get a little bit of wingman poke if he can to try to level that shield up before these next few battles, with round 2 closing in about 55 seconds.
Yeah, you definitely want to hit for that 7 extra damage. I mean, remember, with the Evo changes, with the last patch, the Evo has become so much easier to charge up. I believe 75 to get it up to a blue, or 150 HP, and then another 150 to try and get it up to purple. So 225 damage total to basically secure yourself a purple armor, 200 HP armor. Not hard at all, but definitely it going down to 625 for red armor is probably the biggest strength to try and get that 225 damage there. 225 HP, excuse me, going into the late game.
Absolutely. Now taking a look here at the Weiger side, as we saw them qualify, taking a look at exactly how they came in. If I'm not mistaken, coming into this tournament is one of their 8th in their semifinal. Crip, of course, I believe the only player hailing from Spain in this tournament, so good to see representation all over Europe, of course, here in this afternoon broadcast. If you're joining us from North America, or evening, of course, if you're joining in from Europe itself. But now that's going to be a lot of trouble here for teams on this northern part of the epicenter ridge, getting into a little bit of trouble. We do see some Weigers players going down there in the feed.
Yeah, Outsiders not really living up to their name. They're more like the gatekeepers here, as they have a great ridge line to work with as teams. So many teams, surprisingly, were on this northeast side of the map making some weird rotations, and now they're getting caught out. I think they just weren't expecting people to be here to try and gatekeep them, but sure enough, there they are right now as Taze goes down first for his team. Now it's going to be a 2v2, looks like, in this fight.
Yeah, absolutely. Needs to be careful. Stanny also in a lot of trouble. That's just going to leave Sadiyama and Taze both down. Now Stanny trying to get this, is able to get the fast heal, but it might not be enough. Now going to rely on the gold and the PK to try to stay alive here. It's not going to be easy. We'll see if the pressure does come in. You see both of his teammates thirsted and needs to be careful here, as this is not going to be easy. Now also taking a look here at Dark and team. Things are going to get really thick here around Epicenter. As we saw, things did pull west further, so both Epicenter and Survey Camp, teams that are anywhere around this area, are going to have to make these western moves, and it's not going to be easy because it's pretty packed or pretty stacked on this northeastern side right now.
Yeah, and it looks like he is, of course, going to be by himself. NWR will be able to stabilize off of that. They did not lose a member. Want to see. It looks like NWR are going to try and camp this body, right? They know that they didn't get the third. The Wraith is still out there. The bodies are right there. They're going to try and camp this out, and so that he can't res them, because they do have a beacon to try and use right there. So I like this move coming out from them while they decide. They have another 30 seconds before they have to start making their rotate, but making sure that Red Reserve isn't able to get back into this game, I think, would be a huge boon going into these next few zones.
Yeah, NWR looking good here, both in terms of armor as well as loot. All sorts of heals to be had. They have, I'd have to imagine, quite a healthy surplus here compared to perhaps the rest of the teams that are making pushes that were maybe forced to rotate early now. But also looking at the cooler side, and they might be in the most comfortable position, certainly, that we compared to the ones that we've seen, teams that have to make even further pushes from Epicenter still and Survey Camp. They're able to Watson up here, and something we'll talk about. They do have low ground. However, with the way that they've established their perimeter and their presence, they actually might be in a pretty good place here in terms of ability to poke. They have a little bit of cover to kind of duck behind if they need to, and they're sitting pretty. And right now, I like where Cooler's sitting.
Stanix actually in that 1v3 was able to take out one of Weigers himself right now, though. NWR is trying to get in on this, and they'll be able to finish off Rob from Weigers there. getting one more knock onto Crypt. This is huge for them, as they were in a pretty tough position, but they're making the best of it now.
Yeah, Install doing some great scout damage as well from distance, as we're seeing. From the back, they're going to have to move now as they are getting trapped just a little bit. The TP is out, so they're going to fly right in. We'll see what kind of finishes they can get here. Now Paradise on the Weiger side, last player alive, has to queue out, runs into another squad. He will go down, and that's going to be rough times. Also standing in the feet does eventually go down to the PK of Darken as well, and he is going to take time to heal up as well. Now taking a look at Myth once again. Myth, a team with great Game 1 performance in the last online tournament. They were leading after 2 games, however, finished in the end 6th, I believe, in the last online event. Going to look to get a higher placing overall in online tournament number 4. As we take a look at them, they're able to loot and heal up as well. Now 16 squads remaining.
Yeah, we were talking about, of course, you can't just have one standout performance or 2 standout performances. You need to be consistent across the board. And in the last online tournament, Myth struggled in games 3 to 5, only gaining 6 points across those 3 games. Not enough to really try and close it out. And we can see if they have a better performance throughout the rest of the tournament, that they can really compete for that first place position.
Yeah, look at InStyle now on red and double purple. Really nice job, able to get some extra breaks here and now making this push, making it look easy, pushing so well together, wrapping around the corner, laying down great shots with the G7s. R99s come out, and a kill leader here now for InStyle. He's able to grab his 3rd, and they are looking very good. We saw them earlier on the bottom of Epicenter, and have they ever made a great rotation from that bottom center Epicenter now even further west?
Yeah, Myth had the advantage there starting off. They were the team that were actually gatekeeping. We saw the port coming in, or at least the Wraith queue earlier on, and a lot of teams getting caught up on that. I believe it was Weigers who were caught out by Myth, but it looked like Myth just didn't use that advantage. Honestly, they just kind of held their position and allowed them to walk up to them. You should not allow that to happen. You need to make sure your presence is known and you're able to keep track of all the teams. They should have known that there was another team there. If they got caught up by surprise, that is really surprising and kind of worrying.
Absolutely. Now taking a look, we just got to look at a few of the teams that are already set up on that outskirts train station. As you'd expect, every single building there, and pretty soon every single rock will be held down, as we look like we are going to close in essentially right on that outskirts station that's just outside of that Skyhook Northern Pass. There's still a few teams that are going to try to make it in from the south as well. As we take a look at EXE momentarily, they are going to dome and heal as well to avoid any damage that might have been coming in. Now 14 squads left, and they're going to be forced to move very quickly here. They have a little bit of edge that they're able to play, but now going to need the TP through all the way back towards the north for a moment. Looks like they will have a second to breathe. No, and I spoke too soon, as more damage will come in from the cooler side.
Yeah, Cooler having a great position over to the north-hand side now. Galatoric's gonna go down, and it's all up to Koze here to try and survive. He wants to make it into the top 10 at the very least, but he will fall, and we're still at 12 squads remaining, 31 players left right now. Nasky, Strafe, and Del there. I know they're in the center here. NWR have had a good run of it so far, but they have lost one member. Back on board with AHD, though. They're still playing over here to the southern side. They've got all 3 members still alive. And this is where I think Matafe really does shine as a shot caller for his team, getting into the late game.
This is actually the first time when we saw that Twitch, the Twitch clip that kind of went viral there with Matafe shot calling really quite a few months ago now. This is actually the exact part of the map that this happened on, so excited to see exactly how he and the crew are able to play this in this scenario. Now also to check in on Navi, we do still have Faizu, by the way, who is still in. Claus has been thirsted, but Faizu's still in the game. Navi able to make it in top 10 with only 2 players there, but also checking in with Alliance. Keep in mind, they had a 10th place finish in game number 1 with 0 kills total, so they know that the pressure is on for these last 4 games.
But again, we talked about that win condition for Alliance, making sure that the Caustic gets to the late game, and now here we are basically into the end game here, as 9 squads remaining now, as Nasky, Strafe, and Del will finish off Faizu. As Faizu, that solo rat, tried his best, at least got into the top 10 position. But Nasky, Strafe, and Del, I want to talk about this. We were talking about earlier on how they didn't have as many kill points as we were expecting from the position that they had early on. But here they are, they've got center zone, and they're doing a really great job of finding the KP on the outskirts of the map from their center position.
Absolutely. Now going to be able to hold this down once again. Some low ground that they're able to hold, and going to be very advantageous just with the way that they're fenced up and able to be very selective about the angle that they take. 6 squads left. Cooler going down in the feed there as well. You see some pings coming in, and they're going to go ahead and get back to the building they were at just a bit ago. As we now take a look also at the Gamers Origin side, Enpe, Sirius, and Ostazeni now holding the low ground here as well.
Yeah, that was huge. We saw Cooler going down earlier on, and that was going to be the biggest struggle for Alliance to be able to rotate in, but being able to take them out now, they'll have a free rotation to the north, and so they are safe here while most teams are gravitating towards this building right now. We've got AHG on the top here. This could be one of the big power positions. We'll see how Alliance can try and manage this here. They do have priority on the zone, though, and so this is going to be huge, especially as the only caustic team on the table.
Yeah, absolutely. Ad hoc with some great angles here. Keep in mind the roofs of this building, several of them angle. They're going to be able to be very selective once again in the angles that they take as well. They'll be able to provide some great shots and great cover. Let's see what they'll be able to do here in this low ground as well.
SJP2, they have to be careful. Denze going to go ahead and back off now. They've got plenty of time to reset here. I think you just play for time. There's 6 squads left, 16 players remaining. There should be a rat somewhere hanging around here. I don't know who that solo player is, but you need to at least wait that out. Try to get into the top 5. Remember, the higher you get up, these points just go more, you accrue more and more points.
Absolutely. Now, we know there's at least 3 teams on this building, and now with 6 squads left, that we do see some pings going in for maybe where that solo is just now.
So yeah, the solo is strafe, actually, as he's knocked here. He's going to go down. Now we're down to, I believe it should be 5 squads.
That should be, yes indeed. Now taking a look at exactly, it's going to be Kuya that eventually gets the kill there on strafe, but now the TP is coming out for the Gamers Origin side. It's going to be Serious setting that and trying to get across into this. Now that pre-portal is ready, they'll take it when they need. Now 10 seconds left. His teams are going to be flying out of this. This is going to be a mad dash to the north to get to this final circle.
Yeah, I want to see how Alliance actually position for this. AHG are going to try and wait this out and try to get whatever rotation KP that they can and try and take this as late as possible. But here they go. They're going to go in, taking a lot of zone damage there, but they do have a bubble down on the northern side. Alliance already getting 1 knock onto Osna Zeni.
Now come in here, gonna just hold up if they can. Now also a Phoenix coming in here, but now the damage is gonna be coming down. The bubble will protect them as well momentarily. Now over back to the Alliance side.
Yeah, Hawkes will be forced to queue here. He's trying to buy time. It was Matafe and AHG coming in, cleaning up left, right, and center. Rugby, though, does answer back in Alliance. We'll keep this alive for now. They do need to try and stabilize here, as 2 members are sitting on 25 HP, full armor, though.
Let's see if they can get these heals. I don't know if Alliance can be able to heal out of this. You're hearing a lot of breaks coming in here. It looks like they're going to not only slow heal, but try to get some full heals off as well. Hack is trying to find a swap. He's able to find a partial one, and that might be able to keep him in this. He is the only one to fight for this side as they're going up against the XCC players.
XCC now, I believe this should just be it. Wraith versus Wraith here. He gets the knock, but here comes the second peek out of the Watson, and somehow he's able to secure that win. 1v2. XCC.
Are you kidding me? As an amazing set of plays there and pretty non-traditional end circle that we just saw as I see now the final